Welcome to my ASMR reading of the Wikipedia page for the Hollow Earth conspiracy theory. Let us begin, and I hope you're relaxed while thinking about if the Earth is hollow or not. Hollow Earth from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. This article is about the concept. For other uses, see Hollow Earth disambiguation. The hollow Earth is a concept proposing that the planet Earth is entirely hollow or contains a substantial interior space, notably suggested by Edmund Halley in the 17th century. The notion was disproved, first tentatively by Pierre Bouguer in 1740, then definitely by Charles Hutton in his Schiehallion experiment around 1774. Ooh, that's a while ago. It was still occasionally defended through the mid-19th century, notably by John Cleves Symes Jr. and Jeremiah N. Reynolds, but by this time it was part of popular pseudoscience and no longer a scientifically viable hypothesis. The concept of a hollow earth still recurs in folklore and is the premise of subterranean fiction, a subgenre of adventure fiction. Contents 1. Hypothesis. In ancient times, the concept of a subterranean land inside the earth appeared in mythology, folklore, and legends. The idea of subterranean realms seemed arguable and became intertwined with the concept of places of origin or afterlife, such as the Greek underworld, the Nordic Svartalfheimr, the Christian hell, and the Jewish Sheol, with details describing inner earth in a Kabbalistic literature, such as the Zohar and Hesed la Avraham. The idea of a subterranean realm is also mentioned in Tibetan Buddhist belief. According to one story from Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there's an ancient city called Shambhala, which is located inside the earth. According to the ancient Greeks, there were caverns under the surface, which were entrances leading to the underworld, some of which were the caverns at Tainaron in Laconia, at Troezen in Argolis, at Ephyia in Thesprotia, at Heraclea in Pontus, and in Ermione. In Thracian and Dacian legends, it is said that there are caverns occupied by an ancient god called Zalmoxis. In Mesopotamian religion, there is a story of a man who, after traveling through the darkness of a tunnel in the mountain of Mashu, entered a subterranean garden. In Celtic mythology, there is a legend of a cave called Cruachan, as known as Ireland's gate to hell. Ooh. A mythical and ancient cave from which, according to legend, strange creatures would emerge and be seen on the surface of the earth. There are also stories of medieval knights and saints who went on pilgrimage to a cave located in Station Island, County Donegal in Ireland, where they made journeys inside the earth into a place of purgatory. In County Down, Northern Ireland, there is a myth which says tunnels lead to the land of the subterranean Datha De Danann, a group of people who are believed to have introduced Druidism to Ireland and then went back underground. In Hindu mythology, the underworld is referred to as Patala. In the Bengali version of the Hindu epic Ramayana, it has been depicted how Rama and Lakshmana were taken by possessed by devilish creatures who came from inside the earth. In the Middle Ages, an ancient German myth held that some mountains located between Eisenach and Gotha hold a portal to the inner earth. A Russian legend says the Samoyeds, an ancient Siberian tribe, traveled to a cavern city to live inside the earth. The Italian writer Dante describes a hollow earth in his well-known 14th century work Inferno, in which the fall of Lucifer from heaven caused an enormous funnel to appear in a previously solid and spherical earth, as well as an enormous mountain oppose it, Purgatory. In Native American mythology, it is said that the ancestors of the Mandan people in ancient times emerged from a subterranean land through a cave at the north side of the Missouri River. There is also a tale about a tunnel in the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in Arizona near Cedar Creek, which is said to lead inside the earth to a land inhabited by a mysterious tribe. It is also believed that the tribes are the Iroquois, that their ancient ancestors emerged from a subterranean world inside the earth. The elders of the Hopi people believe that a Sipapu entrance in the Grand Canyon exists, which leads to the underground. Brazilian Indians who live alongside the Parima River in Brazil claim that their forefathers emerged in ancient times from an underground land, and that many of their ancestors still remain inside the earth. Ancestors of the Incas supposedly came from the caves, which are located east of Cusco, Peru. 16th to 18th centuries. The following lines from Act 3, Scene 2 of Shakespeare's play A Midsummer Night's Dream, written in London in 1595/6, suggest that the idea may have been known in Western Europe 100 years before it took on a more scientific form. Hermia, I believe as soon this whole earth may be bored, and that the moon may through the center creep, and so displease her brother's noon tides with antipodes. Edmund Hawley in 1692 conjectured that the earth might consist of a hollow shell about 800 kilometers, or for those that use miles, 500 miles thick, two inner concentric shells and an innermost core. Atmospheres separate these shells. Each shell has its own magnetic poles. The spheres rotate at different speeds. Hawley proposed this scheme in order to explain anomalous compass readings. He envisaged the atmosphere inside is luminous and probably inhabited, and speculated that escaping gas caused the aurora borealis. Leclerc Milfort, built in 1781, led a journey with hundreds of Greek Indians to a series of caverns near the Red River above the conjunction of the Mississippi River. According to Milfort, the original Greek Indian ancestors were believed to have emerged to the surface of the earth in ancient times from the caverns. Milford also claims the caverns they saw could easily contain 15,000 to 20,000 families. 19th century. In 1818, John Cleves Symes Jr. suggested that the earth consists of a hollow shell about 1,300 kilometers, or for those who use miles, 810 miles thick, with openings about 2,300 kilometers, or for those that use miles, 1,400 miles across both poles, with four inner shells, each open at the poles. Symes became the most famous of the early hollow earth proponents, and Hamilton, Ohio, even has a monument to him and his ideas. He proposed making an expedition to the North Pole, thanks to efforts of one of his followers, James McBride. Jeremiah Reynolds also delivered lectures on the hollow earth and argued for an expedition. Reynolds went on an expedition to Antarctica himself, but missed joining the great U.S. expedition of 1838 to 1842, even though that venture was the result of his agitation. Though Symes himself never wrote a book about his ideas, several authors published works discussing his ideas. McBride wrote Symes' theory of consideration. It appears that Reynolds has an article that appeared as a separate booklet in 1827. Remarks of Symes' theory, which appeared in America Quarterly Review in 1868. Professor W. F. Lyons published The Hollow Globe, which put forth the Symes-like hollow earth hypothesis, but failed to mention Symes himself. Symes' son Americus then published the Symes theory of concentric spheres in 1878 to set the record straight. Sir John Leslie proposed a hollow earth in his 1829 Elements in Natural Philosophy. In 1864, in Journey to the Center of the Earth, Jules Verne describes a hollow earth containing two rotating binary stars named Pluto and Proserpine. William Farfield Warren, in his book Paradise Found, the cradle of the human race at the North Pole, 1885, presented his belief that humanity originated on a continent in the Arctic called Hyperborea. This influenced some early hollow earth proponents. According to Marshall Gardner, both the Eskimo and Mongolian peoples had come from the interior of the earth through an entrance at the North Pole. '20th century. NEQUA, or The Problem of the Ages, first serialized in a newspaper printed in Topeka, Kansas in 1900, and considered an early feminist utopian novel, mentions John Cleves Symes' theory to explain its setting in a hollow earth. An early 20th century proponent of hollow earth, William Reed, wrote Phantom of the Poles in 1906. He supported the idea of a hollow earth but without interior shells or inner sun. The spiritualist writer Walburga Lady Pocket, in her book Colleagues with an Unseen Friend, 1907, was an early writer to mention the hollow earth hypothesis. She claimed that cities exist beneath a desert, which is where the people of Atlantis moved. She then entrance to the subterranean kingdom that we discovered in the 21st century. Marshall Gardner wrote A Journey to the Earth's Interior in 1913 and published an expanded edition in 1920. He placed an interior center of the Earth and built a working model of the hollow Earth, which he patented, U.S. Patent 1096102. Gardner made no mention of Reed, but did criticize Symes for his ideas. Around the same time, Vladimir Oberchev wrote a novel titled Plutonia, in which the hollow Earth possessed an inner sun and was inhabited by prehistoric species. The interior is connected with the surface by an opening in the Arctic. The explorer Ferdinand Ozendowski wrote a book in 1922 titled Beasts, Men, and Gods. Ozendowski said he was told about a subterranean kingdom that exists inside the earth. It was known to Buddhists as Akhardi. George Papa and his Anything Can Happen, 1940, claimed the discovery in the Caucasus Mountains of a cavern containing human skeletons with heads as big as bushel bags and an ancient tunnel leading to the center of the earth. One man entered the tunnel and never returned. Novelist Lop Singh Rampa, in his book The Cave of the Ancients, said an underground chamber system exists beneath the Himalayas of Tibet, filled with ancient machinery, records, and treasure. Michael Grumley, a cryptozoologist, has linked Bigfoot and other hominid cryptids to ancient tunnel systems underground. According to the ancient astronaut, how the fuck you an The hollow Earth exemplifies the idea of UFOs coming from inside the Earth, and it adds the idea that the Ring Nebula proves the existence of hollow worlds, as well as speculation on the fate of Atlantis and the origin of flying saucers. An article by Martin Gardner revealed that Walter Siegmeister used the pseudonym Bernard, but not until the 1989 publishing of Walter Crafton's Mingle's Subterranean Worlds, 100,000 Years of Dragons, Dwarfs, the Dead, Lost Races, and UFOs from Inside the Earth did the full story of Bernard Siegmeister become well known. The science fiction pulp magazine Amazing Stories promised one such idea from 1945 to 1949 as the Shaver Mystery. The magazine's editor, Ray Palmer, ran a series of stories by Richard Sharp Shaver claiming that a superior prehistoric race had built a honeycomb of caves in the earth, and that their degenerate descendants, known as Darrow, live there still, using the fantastic machines abandoned by the ancient races to torment those of us living on the surface. One characteristic of the torment Shaver described voices that purportedly came from no unexplainable source. Thousands of readers wrote to affirm that they, too, had heard the fiendish voices from inside the earth. The writer David Hatcher Childress authored Lost Continents in the Hollowed Earth 1998, which he rewritten the stories of Palmer and defended the Hollow Earth idea based on alleged tunnel systems between South America and Central Asia. Concave hollow Earths. Instead of saying that humans live on the outside surface of hollow planets, sometimes called a convex hollow Earth hypothesis, some have claimed humans live on the inside surface of a hollow spherical world, so that our universe itself lies in that world's interior. This would be called the concave hollow Earth hypothesis, or sky-centrism. Cyrus Teed, a doctor from upstate New York, proposed such a concave hollow Earth in 1869, calling his scheme cellular cosmogony. Teed founded a group called the Koreshan Unity based on this notion, which he called Koreshanity. The main colony survives as a preserved Florida State Historical Site at Estero, Florida, but all of Teed's followers have now died. Teed's followers claim to have experimentally verified the concavity of the Earth's curvature through systems surveys of the Florida coastline, making use of rectilinear equipment. Additionally, the divergence of long plumb lines at the Tamarack mine is also claimed as experimental evidence. Several 20th century German writers, including Peter Binder, Johannes Lang, Karl Neuppert, and Fritz Braun, published works advocating the hollow Earth hypothesis, or it has been reported, although apparently without historical documentation, that that Adolf Hitler was influenced by concave hollow Earth ideas. It's an expedition, an unsuccessful attempt to spy on the British fleet, pointing infrared cameras up at the sky. The Egyptian mathematician Mustafa Abdelkader wrote several scholarly papers working on a detailed mapping of the concave Earth model. In one chapter of his book, On the Wild Side, 1922, Martin Gardner discusses the hollow Earth model articulated by Abdelkader. According to Gardner, this hypothesis posits that light rays travel in circular paths and slow as they approach the center of the spherical star-filled cavern. No energy can reach the center of the cavern, which corresponds to no point of finite distance away from Earth in the widely accepted science cosmology. A drill, Gardner says, would lengthen as it traveled away from the cavern, and eventually pass through the point of infinity, corresponding to the center of the Earth in a widely accepted scientific cosmology. bodies of concave hollow Earth need to be distinguished from a thought experiment which defines a coordinate transformation such as that the interior of the Earth becomes exterior and the exterior becomes interior. For example, in spherical coordinates, let radius r go to r squared IR, where r is Earth's radius. See inverse geometry. The transformation entails corresponding changes to the forms of physical laws. This is not a hypothesis, but an illustration of the fact that any description of the physical world can be equivalently expressed in more than one way. Schiahallian experiment. In 1735, Pierre Bouguer and Charles Marie de la Condamine chartered an expedition from France to the Chimborazo volcano in Ecuador. Arriving and climbing the volcano in 1738, they conducted a vertical deflection experiment at two different altitudes to determine how local mass anomalies affected gravitational pull. Bouguer wrote a little over 10 years later. Bouguer commented that his results had at least falsified the hollow Earth theory. Later in 1772, a royal astronomer by the name of Neville Maskelyne proposed to repeat the same experiment to the Royal Society. Within the same year, the Committee of Attraction was formed, and they sent a surveyor by the name of Charles Mason to find the perfect candidate for the vertical deflection experiment. Mason found a mountain named Schiahallian, where the experiment took place, and not only supported the earlier Chimborazo experiment, but yielded far greater results. Contrary evidence. Seismic. The picture of the structure of the Earth that has been arrived at through the study of seismic waves is quite different from a fully hollow Earth, but does not disprove the existence of substantial interior areas. The time it takes for seismic waves to travel through and around the Earth directly contradicts a fully hollow sphere. The evidence indicates the Earth is most likely filled with solid rock, mantle and crust, liquid nickel iron alloy, outer core, and solid nickel iron, inner core. Gravity. Another set of scientific arguments against a hollow Earth or any hollow planets comes from gravity. Massive objects tend to clump together gravitationally, creating non-hollow spherical objects such as stars and planets. A solid spheroid is the best way in which to minimize the gravitational potential energy of a rotating physical object. Having hollowness is unfavorable in the energetic sense. In addition, ordinary matter is not strong enough to support a hollow shape of planetary size against the force of gravity. A planet-sized hollow shell with the known observed thickness of Earth's crust would not be able to achieve hydrostatic equilibrium with its own mass and would collapse. Based upon the size of the Earth and the force of gravity on its surface, the average distance of the planet is 5.5155 grams per cubic centimeter, and typical densities of surface rocks are only about half that, about 2.75 grams per cubic centimeter. If any significant portion of the Earth were hollow, the average density would be much lower than that of surface rocks. The only way for Earth to have the force of gravity that it does is for much more dense material to make up a large part of the interior. Nickel iron alloy under the conditions expected in a non-hollow Earth would have densities ranging from about 10 to 13 grams per cubic centimeter, which brings the average density of Earth to its observed value. Direct observation. Drilling holes do not provide direct evidence against the hypothesis. The deepest hole drilled to date is called a super deep borehole with a true vertical drill depth of more than 7.5 miles, 12 kilometers for those who use kilometers. However, the distance to the center of the Earth is nearly 4,000 miles, 6,400 kilometers for those who use kilometers. Oil wells with longer depths are not vertical wells. The total depths quoted are measured depth, MD, or equivalently along hole depth, AHD. As well as these wells are deviated to horizontal, their true vertical depth, DVD, is typically less than 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers for That's right. Why would his name change from Nikolai to Neil? Because Nikolai Klim's underground travels, in which Nikolai Klim falls through a cave, while Spelunky had spent several years living on a smaller globe, both within and inside of the outer shell. Other notable early examples include Giacomo Casanova's 1788 Iko Samarion, a 5-volume, 1,800-page story of a brother and sister who fall into the earth and discover the subterranean utopia of the Makers, a race of multicolored hermaphroditic dwarves. Vril published anonymously in 1819, Simsonia, A Voyage of Discovery by Captain Adam Seaborn, 1820, which reflected the ideas of John Cleave Symes, Jr. Edgar Allan Poe's 1838 novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, Jules Verne's 1864 novel, Journey to the Center of the Earth, which showed a subterranean world teeming with dinosaurs, George Sand's 1864 novel, Laura, Voyage dans les Cristaux, where giant crystals could be found in the interior of the Earth, Eddie Dorfa, an 1895 science fiction allegory with major subterranean themes, and The Smoky God, a 1908 novel that included the idea that the North Pole was the entrance to the hollow planet. In William Henry Hudson's 1887 romance, A Crystal Age, the protagonist falls down a hill into a utopian paradise. Since he falls into this world, it is sometimes classified as a hollow earth story, although the hero himself thinks he may have traveled forward in time by millennia. The idea was used by Edgar Rice Burroughs in the 7-novel Pellucidar series, beginning with At the Earth's Core, 1914. Using a mechanical drill called the Iron Mole, his heroes David Hines and Professor Abner Berry discover a prehistoric world called Pellucidar, 500 miles below the surface, that is lit by a constant noonday inner sun. They find prehistoric people, dinosaurs, prehistoric creatures, and the Mahar, who evolved from pterosaurs. The series ran for 6 more books, ending with Savage Pellucidar. The 1963. The 1950 novel Plutonia by Vladimir Oberchov uses the concept of the hollow earth to take the reader through various geological epochs. In recent decades, the idea has become a staple of science fiction and adventure genres across realms. Children who chase lost voices and the Monsterverse, television programs, the 3rd and 4th seasons of Sanctuary, role-playing games, e.g. the Hollow World campaign set for Dungeons & Dragons, Hollow Earth Expedition, and video games, Torrance Passage and Gears of War. In popular art, in 1975, Japanese artist Tadanori Yoku used elements of the Agartha legend, along with other Eastern subterranean myths, to depict an advanced civilization in the cover art for jazz musician Miles Davis's album Agartha. Tadanori said he was partly inspired by his reading of Raymond W. Bernard's 1960